Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
You are on the pen.
If you have any trouble navigating coping skills in your life where you use food, alcohol, or other drugs, shopping, gambling, sex, or if you are obese and you're wondering what medical solutions are available to you, or if you have children that are overweight and you're wondering what to do about it, I highly recommend that you listen to my new podcast, The Easy Way Out with Dr. Joy Bracey. I've lost 165 pounds over the last 16 months, and it's been an emotional journey more than anything. Easy Way Out started as a podcast about whether or not I should have weight loss surgery to handle my chronic obesity, but it ended up in places I did not expect. My personal favorite episode is Shut Up Fatty, and it's with my daughter and my son, who are now adults, and we covered what it was like for them to grow up in a fat family and how I handled the fact that they were overweight and what I could have done better as their mom. You'll be tearing up one second and cracking up the next. You can find The Easy Way Out with Dr. Joy Bracey anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yay!
I can't believe it.
Welcome to the Plus Sides Podcast. Look, it's us today. We gave Kat the night off.
We did.
Kat's husband turns 50 today, and she got to go, get it, So we want to make sure. Listen, she'd say the same thing. Don't y'all? I know her.
Happy birthday, Mr. Carter.
Right. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Jay.
Happy birthday, Mr. Carter. So she's going to take a well-deserved evening off. And we have our lovely Sabrina/Brina here with us today. And she is going to be our sub. You're going to see this happen like a lot, guys, because it's busy. we got to work it all in, So before we get started, I want to make sure we run our thank you roll for the members. Okay. Oh, and there's something else that I don't know what this is. Hold on. Did y'all see that? Did it come up for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it didn't for me, as long as you can see it. that almost made me cry. What the crap? We lost JT. JT, you know you're gone. Hold on. There you are. We lost you. Hey, Carolina.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Carolina.
Thank you.
That was really sweet. Oh, we love you so much. Thank you so much for your membership and your support. Well, anyway, hey, y'all.
Hi.
Happy Wednesday. We need Kat here to go. Hump day.
It's my favorite part of the week.
She just does it so well, you
Oh,
know?
It's perfect.
I tried to do it today,
Oh,
but it like wasn't Kat. I like tried to do
Yeah.
it earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think you know, as we start to grow, because you know, I just want everybody to know, like, it's not even a year, guys, until April, and we have almost 10,000 subscribers platform wide, like on all of our audio and then on YouTube. And it's just it is shattering records for new podcast, and it's continuing to grow every hour. And you know, we're all gonna continue to get loud and change things, and we couldn't do it without you. Everybody here that's in the live, that watches the live later, that makes comments, that shares, that puts it on their socials, all of that. That's how we get loud. It's not just us sitting here and, you know, talking in a vacuum. You getting it out there and engaging and telling the algorithms that this is important is what makes things change. So everything you do, every little thing counts and matters.
Yes.
And we couldn't do it without you. We really couldn't.
Yeah.
And we're just so glad to have you here with us tonight. Yes, they will come.
They will
Exactly.
come. I love it.
Exactly. Well, as usual, we will have our community guest, and we will have our tea time, and then a couple segments, and then we'll be good to go.
Yeah.
While I'm thinking about it, because you know, I'll remember, we're going to need a segment. for
Don't
you.
forget about me.
Get out of here.
Wow.
Bear Carlos is our moderator
gosh.
extraordinaire this evening. Good gravy. I told him to pop in less because it gets weird. It'll be controlled, I swear. Anyway, hi. So our community guest tonight is Did it come on?
It did.
Okay, good, because I didn't see it. Something's up.
One thing. It's Kimberly with an IE.
Oh no, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
We'll fix it.
It's okay. I'm
She's
used to it.
probably used to my name.
I
I like that yours is spelled a little bit different. We're so glad to have you here.
Hey,
Hi.
I'm very excited to be here. I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah, I know. So excited. Like, you and I message like all the time. We make funny videos. We're always being ridiculous. And I was like, why haven't you gotten on the show yet? I was like,
I have to show you what I drew today. I had a little downtime with my granddaughter. I don't know if you
Oh,
can
yeah.
see it.
What does it say?
Oh wow! Look
You know,
at
it
that.
Oh.
says,
Is that kid possible? Oh
and
my
it says
God.
data, and you're gonna whack them on the head with it.
Oh my God, I
You're
love
coming
it
for them.
so much.
I love that.
Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need that. That's like my favorite thing I think I've seen in 10 years. Like, I love it so much. Kim Possible's in the house.
Yeah. Kapow. I started
Wow.
naked mole rat, you know, but then
Yes.
my granddaughter started stealing all my good pencils. I was like, okay,
Oh, heck. I do love that guy though. What is his name? I don't know. I can't remember. It's a good show. Kim Possible. It's got a good jingle and everything. John is such a special part. Kat, get out of here. We're sitting with Cabernet. We love you too. We miss you.
Mm.
Oh, you're a sweetie. Dang it, John. Of course you pinned that comment. And again. Oh my goodness. In case you didn't know, John's a special part of the show. That's why he was on the new thing that Lydia made, which is lovely. So Kimberly, what we usually do is we give you the opportunity to tell your story, unfiltered, uncut. And then if you're open to like questions and discussion after, we'd love that. And if you're not, if you're like, I've said my piece and whatever it may be, then that's cool. And we just, it's totally fine. I would say we probably get between 70 and 100 people. It just sort of depends on the night. If there's less than that, it's Journey's fault. And
I
She
kinda
said
had to
it
get a new
was like
phone.
seamless, right? Like you didn't even.
I was like,
Oh my, 5 people from
just
Jazz.
kind of slid that in.
Oh, 5 people from Jazzercise. Woo! I love it. I love
Hi,
it.
friends.
And all my
Jazzercise.
people, I put a thing on to tell them that I was going to be on. So maybe
That's good.
Yay.
Yeah, you know, the logo, the logo,
Uh-huh.
when I was we were trying to get it made, I was like, I want it to look like 80s Jazzercise. That's
She did.
literally the goal. I was like, I had the colors, like what we went in with our socks that were like folded, the leotards, like that's what I was thinking. Like I wanted to look like that because it was probably the only thing good about the 80s when diet culture was around is the Jazzercise. It's always
Mhm.
JC fault. That's what I'm saying, Tico. Like
Well,
she's the Pied Piper. What's up with that, JT?
I spent all of my 80s, like I graduated, I got married, and I had 4 children in the 80s,
Oh my goodness.
3 children in the 80s. So
Wow.
I kind of missed that whole generation.
Oh my gosh. You're
Uh-huh.
missing out. That was a good one.
Yeah. I was
You
raising
hit the nail on the head with the logo. Oh, thanks, Tico. You're a sweetie. So, Kimberly, what we're going to do now is unfiltered, uncut, and uninterrupted. We'll go on mute and we're just going to offer you the space. Okay.
Mhm.
So, go ahead and tell us your story, whatever you want to say.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm Kimberly Rush with an IE. And I've pretty much struggled with obesity since early adolescence, like 11, 12 years old. I started to gain weight. I had been like a little puny thing. They called me shrimp. They called me French fry when I was little. They worried about me that I wasn't gaining weight. And it just, it just like overnight just went from one extreme to the next. And so I pretty much struggled all the way through high school. You know, I wanted to be the skinny girl. I wanted to look like a cheerleader. I wanted the popular boyfriends and, so but I started to binge eat about that time. There were some like family things going on, and I think I just turned to food to be my very best friend. And I started to binge eat. So like I would get home from school and I just would not stop eating. Like I just remember that even now, like just going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next until my mom got home. And then she made supper and I ate supper and and then it was snacks, or my mom always made dessert. And so my weight just started to just keep going higher and higher. It wasn't, I don't think, morbid obesity, but when I was in high school, of course, they didn't have those names back then. But, the typical high school angst of not being little like everybody else. And it was kind of hurtful. But look at my notes here a little bit. And like for one very hot minute, the summer that I got married, which was in 1981, I wanted to get in a wedding dress that I had actually borrowed. And so I, like all summer long, pretty much ate about 500 calories every day. That was it, so that I could get in this dress. And I got in the dress and that day. and then I just, went back to eating like, food. And so I started gaining weight, and then I started having children. And then that, I gained like 80 pounds with my first child. And my doctor was like, listen, your hips are this big and your baby's head is going to be this big. So you need to stop what you're doing. So anyway, I gained a lot of weight over the years. And then I would yo-yo diet. I would have a baby and then I would yo-yo diet back and forth with, I remember one summer specifically, I decided I'm going to lose weight. So I started walking 5 miles a day. And then I ate nothing but carrots, diet toast, like the 40-calorie toast, which I literally pulled in half, like so that I could eat 2 pieces out of that one piece. So carrots and that toast with mustard, and just for kicks and giggles, I would eat a piece of chicken from time to time. But for the most part, I ate carrots to the point where I was so obsessed and so messed up that I literally turned orange, like Oompa Loompa orange. And my doctor happened to see me at a social event, and he was like, Kimberly, I want you in my office on Monday. You are in serious liver failure. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I just eat a lot of carrots. Like the whites of my eyes were yellow. My hands, I had the best tan though. I was like gorgeous bronze. But he was like, no, you're in liver failure. I'm like, no. I just eat a lot of carrots. And he was, do you know how many carrots you'd have to eat to turn that color? I was like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do know how many carrots I'd have to eat. So, just dumb things like that, that I just thought I wanted to be little, and so I really poured myself into exercise. I really poured was eating probably again, 500 calories, 600 calories a day. And this went on. And I just, there wasn't labels for things like binge eating disorder and all of that. I mean, I'm probably a lot older than most of you there. I'm 60, by the way. And so
Real quick. Damn, really? You do not. See, I swear. I'm just saying, own it. It's good. All right, no more interruptions.
Some people don't get to be 60. So anyway, and so what else I want to add? So and I did all kinds of things. Like I taught jazzercise for several years. I taught jazzercise. I worked for a company that I'm not gonna say it. I worked for a company that
you can say it.
Well, I'm trying to be like just vague, but
just say it's a company that was the gold standard of diets.
Yes. And I actually had a really good experience with them. And maybe I actually this is kind of going off my story a little bit, but I actually went on Saturday. I got up early in the morning and I actually went to a meeting because I felt like I wanted to see it when I wasn't a member and I wasn't a coach. I wanted to see and hear what people were saying. And it kind of like it brought back a lot of memories that I didn't even know were there. Like I heard people say they got up in the morning, but they didn't eat anything or drink anything because they wanted to see something on the scale when they got there. And so they didn't eat and they wore their lightest clothes. You take off your glasses, you take off your rings, you do all that stuff I don't really know. And I remember doing that. And I heard people saying that, well, I don't drink my coffee on Saturdays till I get here, and it kind of started to come back to me like, why did I do that? And as a coach, I hope, Kim, you and I have talked about this as a coach. I hope that I never, ever made it seem like it was somebody's fault. And and I don't think I did because I didn't always stay on script. So there were things like the whole, you got to exercise to earn eating something. And I did not prescribe to that. So I might have been that rogue coach, but maybe. Anyway, so, life goes on. I was exercising like a crazy person, teaching jazzercise. I was, trying to maintain 23 points and all of that. And I just kept getting weight. And we moved from Maryland to Florida and to live with my mom to kind of take care of her. Her health was getting not good. And so we came here. And of course, then that made it even worse because my mom's kind of a meat and potatoes, 4 or 5 different things on the dinner table every night. Where I was used to trying to eat a salad or whatever, but, and then she always made desserts. She wasn't that healthy, but she always had some dessert when I would come home from work. And that was another thing. I'd start another job and I just started to balloon up. And I finally, my mom was getting more and more ill. And I just said to myself, I don't want that. I don't want to be that person. I don't want my kids to go through this. And my mom was heavier. She always has been. And she was, again, she started doing Weight Watchers way back when I was a kid, and so she's gone up and down. But I watched her struggle and I watched her, not be able to move. And it just really struck me. I don't want that for my kids. And so at that time, I was walking a lot. I'm going to make a plug here for 99 Walks. I joined an app called 99 Walks a couple of years ago, and you set your goal. So every month I would set my goal to like 50 or 60 miles. And that helped. That helped, like the emotional part of it. That helped, like not just physically, but just mentally. I needed to walk. And with my mom getting more and more ill, and it just was my out, and it just made me feel better physically. So anyway, I did this app, 99 Walks, and that got me walking. And so this is coming around to this is I'm walking, and I kept walking past this doctor's office again and again and again. Every night I'd walk past this. I'd go through this little shopping center. It's not too far from my house. And I'd walk past this doctor's office, and they were getting ready to open. And I thought, you know what, when they open, I'm going, I'm going to take care of this. And so I finally one night took a screenshot of the phone number, and the next morning I got up and I called it, and they said, can you come in right now? I'm like, I've already eaten. I can't, no. I can't weigh in after I ate and drank coffee. But I did. And my doctor was so compassionate. I mean, I took in a laundry list of things that were wrong with me. I had high blood pressure. I had high cholesterol. I, was on the cusp of diabetes, like pre-diabetic. I had leg cramps. I couldn't sleep at night because my legs were cramping so badly. Just migraines. There was just a whole laundry list. And he just looked at me so compassionately and said, you gave me a whole list here, but what's the one thing you really want to attack first? What's the one thing? And I said, my weight. I really need to get my weight under control. And we talked about my walking, and we talked about, what I eat. And I admitted to him that I had binge eating disorder. I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, that I eat 1,200 calories a day, because I don't. And in my mind, I think I do, but then I go on these binges. And so, and actually it's through this community that I learned what, I kept thinking, what's bed? But I learned, I'm like, yeah, that's been me my whole life. So anyway, he said, well, you know what, next week, there's a drug coming out that's going to be available, and it's called Monjaro. And he kind of made fun of the name. He said, it sounds like an island in Africa or something. I don't know. It sounds like a mountain. And he said, but I think you would be a very good candidate for it. And he said, you're going to be my very first patient on it. And he said, next week, when the savings card comes out, I'm going to put you on it. And so I was his very first patient on it. And I was a super responder. Like, I responded right away. I had, I did have side effects. I got nauseous and everything. But almost that same week, my mom got very, very ill. And she was in the hospital almost the entire month I went on it in June when it first came out. And then she was in the hospital the whole month of July. And I know if I had not been on this medication, I would have been another 30 pounds. I know it. I don't even doubt it one bit, because I knew from the past when my mom would be in the hospital, I would just sit there and eat, like go to the vending machines or go, and just eat and eat and eat. So I know, and that really, the medicine, I could tell right away something was different. Like, I would get home after being at the hospital all day, and I think, I didn't eat today. Like, I forgot to eat, and which that I always said, how can people forget to eat? I don't understand that. But with this medication, I really did feel the difference. So the weight started coming off pretty much right away. And, I kept walking, and I kept doing all those things. And so I saw the weight coming off, and it felt so good. And I wasn't even a part of this community yet. And, but I felt kind of all alone, because nobody else that I knew was on it, and people were like, you're doing what? But my family was really supportive. So, I lost 100 pounds, from June when I went on it to about May, I think, is when I finally hit the 100-pound mark. And that was the lightest. I hadn't been that since the summer of my wedding. And that was, like I said, was like for 5 minutes. But I got, and I never thought I could be this small. I never thought, like, I would get down to maybe 150, and I'm 5'2", 5'3", depends on who's asking. And so I just didn't even think it was possible, you know? And so I said to myself, when I got down to 150, I was going to call my family in. I have 5 daughters and 5 grandchildren. And I was like, we're having family pictures taken because I might not ever be this size again. That's my mindset, you know? And so, we got family pictures taken, and I just felt so good because always before I was hiding behind people, you know, put the child in front of me, hold a grandbaby. And it was just like a treat that I did for myself to get my family pictures taken. And I adore them. I don't think I have any close by, but anyway, I continued to lose weight. And so then this was a crazy thing. I started falling. So anybody out there, please listen to this story. I started tripping and falling all the time. And one night I tripped really badly, and like they thought my ribs were broken for a while. And my doctor was just like, what's going on? And like they were testing me for MS. They were testing me for all kinds of stuff because I just was like doing crazy things. Well, it turned out that I was crossing my legs more because I was smaller. I was able to cross my leg, like even right now, I'm like fighting it. And because I was smaller and I could cross my legs, I actually had an adhesion in a nerve that's right behind your knee. So I didn't have any fat back there anymore. And every time I crossed my leg, it was like kinking off a hose. And I couldn't even if I sat in a chair and tried to pick up my right foot, I couldn't pick it up. I couldn't pick it up off, like I couldn't tap that foot. It was the strangest thing because my brain was saying, come on, you can tap your left foot. Why can't you tap your right foot? And it just turned out that's what it was. I had lost so much weight that I was crossing my legs and I pinched off that nerve. So I had something called drop foot. And so anyway, anybody out there, try not to cross your legs. Especially as you're losing weight, and you know it feels so much better to do it, and it's comfortable. But anyway, I'm better. So I literally stopped crossing my legs. I told my doctor that I was thinking about taking up smoking because I think it would be easier to quit smoking than it was to stop crossing my legs, and then I'd feel successful, like I stopped doing something. He said, "Well, don't do that." So I think that. I'm saying if there's anything else, you know, my numbers are great now, except for my cholesterol. But I heard Bourbon, I can't think of his name. I heard him say that his cholesterol is still high, so that made me feel better that even his cholesterol is high. But I think if I hit anything else,
Take your time.
Oh, I had in November. I did the big thing. After I lost all that weight, every time I'd look in the mirror, I wanted to cry because I'm 60 and my skin, all those times, you know, I tell people I've lost 600 pounds, 50 pounds, 12 times, but all that skin did not bounce back. All the other times it went back, but this was a pretty extreme. 100 was a pretty extreme amount of weight. And my legs were so baggy. And if anybody gets on my site, I've got the before and afters. But it was embarrassing. Like, I know a lot of people, I mean, some people think of it, well, it's just battle scars, you know, but it was embarrassing. And then one night my granddaughter rubbed my leg and she said, "What happened, Grandmama?" And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk to my husband, and he was supportive of it. And I went in, I was just going to have my legs done. And then I asked him, well, how much would it be to add the arms? Because that was another thing. I've always been sensitive about my arms. And, you know, when you're taking pictures, you do this so that your arm isn't the first thing close to the camera. And so I ended up going back and saying, how much more would it be for my arms? And also my granddaughter was like, "What's this?" You know, sorry. I'm not letting her see my belly ever. So I'm not doing that. But anyway, I had the skin removal surgery, and that was about 10 weeks ago. And I feel super fantastic. And I'm going to be wearing shorts this summer, and I'm not going to be embarrassed. All last summer, I was a little bit embarrassed over the wrinkly legs. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Can you think of anything, Kim, that my crazy story?
No, I love your story. I'm sure, like, you know, I was gonna ask, to see like if you're willing for some questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm wondering, so I've lost 100 pounds too. However, I have like more to lose, technically. And but I have always like identified as a plus size person. I've been like this for my whole life. There is no skinny Kim in existence. And I want to know, and there's really no way to ask that, but we're peoples. So I know you're gonna like give me some grace. What does it feel like to be skinny? Like, is that weird?
I'll tell you, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know because even if like I got on the scale the other day and I had gained 2 pounds, and honest to Pete, I was just like, I just could, I was like, what's happening? Am I going? I just start to like get that feeling of here we go. Oh, here we go again,
Yeah.
Or I'm like, man, are my pants tight? I mean, just, I have not, it has not even yet. Like I said, I go to jazzercise a couple times a week now. And I look in the mirror and I'm like, who is that? And then I look at the next person beside me and go, I mean, you shouldn't compare yourself, but I look at people beside me and go, oh, I'm her size, and it still hasn't, my brain hasn't caught up with it. I know in a while, but it's still, I get out, I buy a pair of Judy Blues from one of y'all, and I pull them out of the package and I go, oh crap, I'm never going to get in these. And then I pull them on and button them up. I'm like, what, I went from a 16, 18 to a 0 to 2. And still, I don't know who I am in the mirror. And I mean, I feel great, but yeah, Kim, I know what you're saying. Like, I just didn't, even at 150, my kids were like, that's enough, Mom. That's enough. I want you look good, Mom, stop. And I'm like, but I'm not where I want to be. And even now they're like, don't bump into grandmama. She's frail.
At 60, girl, you look 50. That's like,
I don't know. I think that's a whole, maybe kids that are like, maybe you need to talk to somebody. Maybe I do.
Honestly, I think we may have, because I think a lot of people struggle with this, especially us that kind of started around the same time in summer of 2022. And I think that what I'm going to try to do is get on the show is a psychiatrist that deals with people who after they have had bariatric surgery, because that is a very dramatic, huge change for them mentally, and I'm thinking that would be good for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to reach out to a couple of the bariatric surgeons that I know and see if they can suggest somebody, but it seems to come up a lot. And I keep wondering, like, when is that going to switch? I mean, like I'm buying clothes and I feel the same way. And I'm just in, I mean, like, I'm technically still like plus size, but like I'm one size away from not being that. And I'm like also kind of wanting to sabotage it a little bit because that terrifies me, you know? So I always ask when people get to like the level that you're at, like, what's that like with the mind? Especially like when you shop, do you like, Sabrina made a video recently where she like went to a store, and Sabrina, you can tell us about it. Tell us about your video.
Yeah, I went to just like, I don't know if they're nationwide, but a store here, Maurice's. Walked in and I beelined to the back of the store for the plus size section. And I stopped and I was like, wait, I'm not this size anymore. It was the first time like in my adult life that I wasn't in these sizes anymore. So like, it was kind of an emotional experience, and I walked back up to the front and I was just picking. It's very weird to like, because my first inclination is to pick up the 3X, 4X still, and I'm not that anymore. And I cried in the dressing room.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of work, right? Like,
a lot of work.
There's a lot of work that comes with this. It's not just the body, it takes a while for the brain to catch up.
In many ways, like I was saying, like food was my best friend, and I had to go truly. I mean, besides my mom, my mom did pass away that summer, but besides my mom being ill, all those kind of things, I just, I had to, like, I mourned the fact that I'm not that person anymore. The food isn't where I turn to. And, there's a lot, I mean, and, there's just a lot of mental head games, that go
Yeah.
losing weight. And I literally, like, one day I was like, why am I, besides my mom, it's like, why am I so sad? And it's like, because I don't, at that point when I was on the higher dosages, I didn't snack. I didn't, I just didn't have that anymore. And so I didn't go to the pantry anymore and go, what's in here, or eat a hot dog bun or whatever. I just, yeah, I think there's as much mental things as we need to work on and I'm not there. I can tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will someday.
I keep wondering, like, when that'll be. Is it when do we kind of settle into what the self is, and when do we stop worrying about getting the weight back? You know? Oh,
So,
hello. Oh, so loud. Oh, turn the volume down. Oh, God.
so,
Oh, John, so loud. Stop speaking. It's so loud.
is that better?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's really loud, right?
So, words of wisdom for everybody.
That's a little bit.
Nobody got to being overweight in a single day.
Mhm.
Therefore, you will not change your mentality to being skinny or healthy in a single day either. All of you lovely ladies need to remember, and you handsome gentlemen need to remember to give yourself grace. You're in a journey to get healthy and to lose the weight. And just like you didn't get where you're at right now in a single instance,
Mhm.
you won't change in a single instance. Give yourself grace, love yourself, and everything else will happen. It's just like that guy we used to work for at Career Builder used to say, baby, when you're happy, everything else comes along.
Yeah.
So be happy with yourself, be happy with the journey that you're on, and then feeling right in your skin, that'll come with it.
Or you just
So,
take
Aw.
so bears wisdom.
that's so
Oh.
nice. I was reading a book the other day, and the saying in what I quoted out of there was, no one hates themselves to healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
You just can't hate
Yeah.
yourself, because even if you are healthy, if you don't find the way to love yourself and trust yourself,
Yeah.
you're not healthy. You're
Yeah.
still not, so
That's
I don't-
powerful. Yeah, that's powerful. No one hates themselves to healthy.
Yeah.
That's
How, in terms of like your BED, we can say it here. So oddly enough, YouTube promotes being able to talk about it and solutions to it. So we can say binge eating disorder here, which is nice. And it's cool that they have that as an option. But when you were talking about that, I don't think you mentioned food noise. Is that something you experienced?
Oh, well, I didn't know what food noise was.
Yeah.
Although, as I'm thinking back when I worked for that, company,
Yeah.
we did talk about that a lot.
That Gold Star Diet Company?
Yeah. We did talk about that food noise way, way, way back then. It's been a while.
Interesting.
And we did talk about that.
Head hunger is what they called it, right?
Head hunger. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Something like that. But that,
Mhm.
I remember specifically them talking about, before I was a coach, somebody said, well, what do you do when you hear that, when you hear that voice, because I like to eat and read. I love to eat and read.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, and I would eat something, and it's so subconscious, or so unconscious of
Yeah.
doing, especially when you're reading or watching TV or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would just go, okay, well, now what can I have? Okay, well, now what can I have?
Mm-hmm.
My husband, I mean, I'll be honest with you. My husband and I we've had some fight, arguments about, like, he's like, you just ate. And I'm like, shut up,
Yeah.
And he always said, I just love you, and I just want you to be healthy. And I took it as a wife, as like, you don't like me the way I am. And there's a lot of that went on. So I started hiding what I was eating, like I'd buy brownie bites at the grocery store and then eat a couple of them, then throw them out in the trash can before I got home.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want him to know, it was so shameful to me that I couldn't get it under control. And with that food noise, I didn't know how loud it was until it wasn't there anymore. Then realizing, oh, that's why my husband doesn't understand me, because his brain doesn't work like that. We can disagree a lot about, like we were just discussing tonight in a nice way, discussing the fact that I don't like it when someone says, in fact, my granddaughter said, I'm going to exercise so I can eat that potato chip. And I was like, who taught you that?
The gold standard diet culture.
No, she's 3. And she was
so where
like,
did she hear that?
Where in the world? You didn't hear that from Grandma, I promise.
No.
That got us talking about, my husband looks at it totally different than I do. Like, he's like, well, why is that bad? Why can't you say, well, if I want to have that ice cream, I need to go ride my bike? And I'm like, because it's not a reward, and it's not exercise is not punishment, and food is reward. And I need to say that every day to myself, because like you said, taught us that, if we want to, if we just exercise it off. And, my favorite saying was, when I was a jazzercise instructor, was, can't outrun your fork. You can work out all the time. And if you have, the things that we're going through, we've gone through, and, I didn't have PCOS, although looking back, I think I'm way past that now.
No, it makes sense though. Yeah.
But I look back on when I was younger, and like I had a lot of fertility issues. I mean, I had 5 kids, so you're like, yeah, right.
No, it's very common. I had 2 miscarriages. My son Kelsey has like 3 or 4 kids, and she has PCOS. Michelle too. Michelle the same thing.
And I would go long stretches, and in fact, I was 3 months pregnant with my 4th child before I even knew I was pregnant, because it was just normal for me to go that stretches. So I probably did have PCOS, but again, that was a long time ago. That was just they were just kind of talking about that kind of thing. It wasn't completely out there yet. So
one of the doctors we had on that specializes in it, I don't know if you know, New York Endo, but her name's Dr. Salasuela, and she's like on all like the Fox Newses and all the things when she's talking about obesity. And she said, on average, it takes 5 years just these days, to diagnose somebody with PCOS. There are so, and there's like sort of 5 things I think that they look for, but not everybody has all of them. You know what I mean? I have all of them. And every time I would ask for help, they would just say, it's because you're fat and because you're carrying so much estrogen, and nobody did a study. Nobody checked me. Nobody cared that I had 2 miscarriages and it was weird. Like, it was because I was plus size, because I was fat, that was the reason. I was completely ignored, you know? And what kills me is if someone had listened to me, I could have probably taken Victoza, which was a GLP-1, after my son, and maybe had more children, And so I don't think we talk about it enough. And like, that's something that, JT and I have been beginning to try to like hashtag and talk about, like, the undiagnosed piece of it. It's huge, and there for sure, it seems, and we just had an episode on childhood obesity. And one thing that the doctor was saying is how many children, right, are coming up with insulin resistance and PCOS at 12 years old and younger, right? Like even younger, because a lot of girls are starting their periods early, right? And she was talking about that on the episode. And, and that's something they're seeing now, but they didn't talk about that when I was coming up, So I think it's something that we need to shed more light on, for sure. And, even when I asked her, I was like, well, can I get diagnosed with it now? And she's like, I mean, you're better now, right? Like, that's the thing, is I regulated my hormones and now those things are gone. So it's like, it's nothing you can really do. But I think that a lot of people look back and they see that in their history, and her story, and I think, that's just I just think that a lot of us feel like we can't say it, we shouldn't say it because we weren't diagnosed, but so many people aren't. One of the things that along the way that
a very close family member of mine that is an in-law, my husband's father. He's gone now, but one of the things that he said to me that he said, do you think that because you're overweight, like I had a daughter that had cancer as an infant, and he actually said to me, do you think because you're overweight you caused your daughter to have cancer? And like to this day, I'm like, what would make a person say that? But I was overweight when I had her, and it plagued me. Like, did I? It just, doctors don't.
Yeah.
Come back, come back,
Come back.
go away. How'd that happen?
I don't know. You turned your camera off?
No, I don't know what happened. Hang on.
Okay. You can always go away and come back if you need to.
Okay, wait.
Should
Okay,
be fine.
there we are. Okay. I
There you go.
tried to swipe my daughter's message away.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, I mean, well-meaning people say stuff, and
That didn't sound well-meaning. He thinks he doesn't give grace on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't go. I left. And I didn't go back for like 6 months. I just like hurt me so badly.
Yeah.
Of course it did.
It's on the news. They were like, "Oh, overweight this. Oh, because you're overweight that." And he heard it on the news that people that have a weight problem tend to have more likely to have children that have childhood cancers. And he heard it on the news. And again, everything's because you're fat. Everything. And I'm just thankful that the doctor that I finally did see was like, I'm gonna help you.
Yeah.
And it was, there's been some things, that, that
When you were growing up, or anybody in your family have obesity or larger, or seem to have issues with food?
everybody.
Everybody?
We're a very food family. We're all really good cooks, and that's an issue. We're all pastry people. We're cakes, pies, and pastry, dessert all the time. My grandmother was overweight. There's very few people in my family that weren't overweight. They started, and some of them even started out very thin, and then ended up overweight. And so obesity is. My father was my father wasn't really heavy, but diabetic, had COPD. He, and in fact, I remember a doctor. She wasn't being mean, but she's just said, "Okay, Kimberly, you've got a mother with this, a father with that, blah blah blah." And she went all over my family history, and she was like, "Pick a way you want to die, because you've got a whole bunch of things out there that you just pick a way. Which way do you want to die?" And she wasn't meaning it in a mean way. She really had a lot of compassion, but there's everything. They take it back to your weight. But runs. And I look at my kids, and they're struggling. My one daughter, her name's Amy. She just recently lost 100 pounds as well on Wegovy. And so, I feel good that they saw how it helped me, and that they were able to go to their doctor and start on their journey. At least two of my kids are
huge.
a weight issue. And I don't, I don't get into their life so much, like eating, because I just don't. I don't want.
I think you know what that feels like. You've already told us, So,
Yeah.
I think, I've dealt with that a lot. But my parents, I look back and I give my parents a lot of grace, because I know that they were saying that because they loved me and cared for me and wanted good things for me. I don't think they realized how much it hurt me in so many ways, Yeah, it's genetic too. That's exactly right what Nita's saying. Like, if I look back at my sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear my dogs, they're going a little nuts. But if I look back at my childhood, like, I was always big. I was almost 10 pounds when I was born. My father's side, lots of obesity, lots of weight issues. My mother's just sort of like average, and maybe had, 10 or 20 pounds. It wasn't ever a really big thing for her until much, much later in life. And well into her late 60s. And it's just I I I think to myself, I think I heard a stat recently where it was like 70% of your weight is based on your genetics, period.
Mm.
Right? Which means only 30% is up to you. Right? I mean, like it almost feels like a losing battle. That's something Nate just talked about on his episode of the
Mhm.
podcast. Like he was just talking about it, about how, he had kind of subscribed to some people that were like, you cannot control the size of your body, period. No matter what you do, you cannot, you know? And I didn't even know that was a thing until he shared it with us. But, I'm not sure people always knew. And I think that a lot of times when it comes to like, and I'm curious what you think about this, especially with your kiddos, the whole idea of like body positivity. I think that comes up a lot, in our community as almost like we are combative with body positivity because we're losing weight, right? Or we're trying to lose weight. And I don't think that's true. I think that they don't have to be mutually exclusive, Sorry, I lost my light. But what do you think about that? Have you had like, how do you feel about, I would say, like body positivity in general? Like, is that something that you think is still okay to have? Or did you feel like you had to kind of own, your weight at your size for how often you fluctuated? Or, I'm not sure. Some people just don't even think about it or try not to think about it. But there's a certain level of acceptance I think some people tried to get to just to survive, How do you feel about that?
Well, for me, I didn't really see myself being as big as I was. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see that. But then when I look back now, who is that?
Yeah.
I didn't see myself as getting as large as I was, as much weight I had on me. And again, I'm not a very big person. I'm, 5'.
Yeah, you're a small person. I get it.
I just didn't see it. And again, that mirror is such a liar in both
Yeah.
directions. And so I struggle with it because even now, I watch my kids, they'll say, "Oh, I really need to lose weight." And, I try to just be quiet, they have to get there,
Yeah.
themselves. And then I go, I don't really say anything because I know how it feels. And, but then I see them like eating all this stuff and just,
It's hard for you.
it's
Yeah.
me to be like, oh, don't.
It's hard for you not to put your stuff on them.
Mhm.
Right? But I
Mhm.
think what's interesting is that genetically it kind of already is, and that's not your fault. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it sounds like they're kind of finding their own way through it and they have to find their own path,
Yeah.
But I completely understand because, my mother, I know everything that she did, like I look back on it, I swear, and everything she did really was because she was concerned because she knew how hard this would be, But there was definitely Weight Watchers was a like staple for diet in my family. Like that was the one we always went back to, and it was difficult because it started with me so young, doing it with her like side by side, But again, I know she just thought she was trying to teach me how to eat well. Like, let me teach you how you eat, Kim, right? Well, why did she
Mm-mm.
think that?
Mm-mm.
John,
Mm-mm.
go away. I'm
No.
explaining something about my mom. You can go away. Stop. Thank you. Like, I think that is what her intention was when I was growing up. I think the issue is like it didn't help. It hurt a lot, but I'm not upset with her about it, if that makes sense, because she only thought that way because that's what she was indoctrinated in, you know, is this constant restriction, 1,000 calories, 500 calories, eating rice cakes and just snack wells and skinny cows and just anything you could to like get something that would taste good to your brain, right? And something to give you some sort of dopamine, but then white knuckle through everything else, And that's honestly, it's why I speak out against diet culture so much. Is it's just not a good way. Kimmy has always been about the image not being health. I don't. Okay. Okay. Anyways, honey,
I
stop.
just have one thing to say, and then I'll go away. With your mom about that stuff. I hear you wanting to give grace, but we need to have a tad bit of reality here.
John.
It was about image, and you know it was, baby. To an extent, it was about image. In order to be able to face things and to be able to heal from them, you have to be real about the intent behind
It's not how
things.
I feel about it, but it's not time for therapy session. So
It's always
please
time for therapy session. Okay.
go. Okay.
Dr. Sense.
Yeah.
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 Well, like I said, my mom, that summer that I went on Montero, and I would watch the healthcare professional put her in a sling to
Yeah.
move from one place to another.
Yeah.
And I just was like, it broke my heart. It was humiliating to her. My parents never made me feel,
Yeah.
my mom loved me. I knew, well, I mean, I went through that whole stage when I was a teenager. You don't love me, but
Yeah.
but it wasn't because of my weight or anything like that. But I had a very athletic brother. My brother's very thin.
Yeah.
He, he's the one good, he got the good gene.
You got the good genes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but so he's never struggled with it. And I remember him specifically. Do you remember the Flatsy dolls? Are you guys? They were these little flat, almost like Gumby. They were these Flatsy dolls, and their clothes clipped to them, and they were called Flatsy dolls. And my brother would go around going, Fatsy, Fatsy. The tune was Flatsy, Flatsy, you're flat and that's that. And he would, Fatsy, Fatsy, So
Jerk.
Brothers are the best.
Oh, brothers.
about it. But he's never had to understand. He's never understood. He's always been athletic. He's always been thin.
Yeah.
And it's just natural. Same with his wife and his daughter. They're naturally thin. And my sister-in-law is the one that's like, you need to stop now, and you can't do this for the rest of your life, and you need to just figure it out how to, and it just every single time I see her, I hope you're not on. Every time I see her, she says something. And one time, to the point of my one daughter, who has lost 100 pounds, was saying at the dinner table, I wish I could lose some weight. I really need to lose some weight. And she went out in the kitchen, and her daughter had eaten her roll, so she was getting another roll. And my sister-in-law came out, grabbed the roll as she was putting it in her mouth, grabbed it and threw it in the trash and said, "You're welcome."
Oh, Lord.
So, like, my brother's family does not get it at all. Now, I mean, he's been very kind and supportive since I've lost the weight, and he's proud of me. When I got the skin surgery done, he was like, "Oh, who's the vain one now?" And like, I'm the vain. But I'm glad
everybody's vain.
Watchers with my mom. That was the day when they did liver once a week and fish once a week, and I'm like you. I went way back then, but because my mom was insecure and felt bad about her weight. And my dad didn't help matters any, because he was all looking at women that were thinner than her and making comments. And so, it's just, my mom, neither my mom or my dad made me feel bad about my weight issue. But
yeah, that's nice. I think that, I think a lot of parents, I mean, Kat will say the opposite. Kat is saying, Kat was very open about her stuff with her mom, and that her mom, it was like image and all the things. And it was really like, she'll say, like, my mother was my first bully. So people have different experiences, and I think, we can look back and go, oh, they were just doing the best they can, but sometimes they weren't. I think it just depends on the circumstance. You know what I mean? But I think the othering for me, so it's different because, like, my sisters that I grew up with are little, and my mom was like average, my dad was like average, and then there's me. And I'm like, it's clear, you look at her, you're like, yeah, she's adopted. Like the way that how tall I am in comparison to Christmas card pictures, like, who's that jolly green giant? You know what I mean? Like, it's evident throughout I'm serious. Wait till you see they're small humans. You're like, genetic lottery? And I'm like, but I'm the prettiest. Suckers.
You do have the most beautiful lips.
Oh, thank you. That's from my father's side, where I also got all the fat.
Kim, your cheekbones are
Also, my father's side.
your cheekbones are elite. They,
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, actually, maybe my mom. My mom's quite a bit of Cherokee. I think it may come from that, because her father was. So maybe. But thank you. But we all have our things. Yeah, I think it's interesting when you think about that, like how to deal with your kids that way. Because like I think about that too. This goes down deep, right? Like, how do I talk to my son about food? And I've had a lot of conversations on the podcast about different things that I'm trying, because he hears me talk about obesity kind of all the time, right? Because I'm an advocate and I'm always doing it. And he's very much a part of the show and excited about it. And he wants me to start the plus sides of autism. And, it's nice though that he's learning. He has autism. So he'll learn. I think he's learning how to advocate for himself and ask what it is that he needs and tell me when he wants to be a big boy. And so I think it's a ripple effect, I want that too. You want what too?
The autism thing.
Oh, the plus sides of autism. Yeah.
Plus
We're gonna do it as a family.
And
Yeah.
also, just as a side note, you're an awesome mom with him on talking about this stuff. He never feels bad about his food, how much he's eaten. He sticks with his, protein, because of course, if we don't ask for protein first, he'll eat all the fries and nothing
Yeah.
else. So,
Yeah.
with the exception, of that one little thing that he does, that's
Yeah.
just a healthy thing.
Yeah.
You're a great mom with him on all this stuff. You really
Thank you,
are.
baby. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome. And I only love you and I only protect you. So
I
say
know
things
where
because
it's
I'm
coming
protecting
from.
you.
I
All right.
know. I know where it's coming from. I love you.
Okay. Love you too.
Okay. Okay.
All
Something that when we had the childhood obesity episode, Kimberly, the other day, the pediatrician who's an obesity specialist said, it was interesting. She goes, try to talk about things more about health and not about food, not about calories, not about quantity, nothing like that. And she said something really cool. She said, like, when you're talking to your kids, regardless if they have obesity or not, all of your kids that have no othering, it's let's do something as a family. Let's all have oranges today. Let's all do, you know what I mean? Something like that. We're doing something healthy today. We're all going to have oranges, right? And I was like, you know what also would be good is because I don't like it just being health around food, right? It should also be health around like activity and health around having healthy conversations about your mental health and how you're feeling, right? That all equals healthy too. And I think it's just something to think about, like as my kids growing up, like thinking about, let's go do something good for our bodies today. Let's go do something healthy with our bodies, And I just think that right now, the way that diet culture has drilled into us, this stuff that's like, God, it's like almost impossible to get to go away. We have to do different things with our kids,
I'm going to touch on that really quick. When
Yeah.
my older daughter, when she was 4, I went to go pick her up from the babysitter, and out of nowhere, she pops up from the back seat and she goes, "Mommy, I don't think you are fat." And I was like, "Where'd you hear that word?" Because then,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm ready
You were
to
like-
fight the babysitter, right?
Yeah.
I'm ready to fight the
Yeah.
babysitter. I was like, "Where did you hear that word, baby?" She
Mhm.
goes, "You say it all the time when you're on the phone at home. You always say that you're fat." And I wanted to let you know that I don't think that you are fat. And then like plant a kiss on my cheek. That was one of the most profound moments in my life.
Yeah.
Because one of my biggest fears is pouring all this crap and trauma into them,
Me too.
unintentionally pouring this into them,
Sure.
right? Like, just talking to my friends and the way I was speaking about myself in front of, not half the time, I didn't even know she was around, And
Yeah.
so I said, so we've been working on shifting that to,
Mhm.
that word is no longer allowed in the house,
Yeah.
and it's not, you're losing weight. No.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get healthy.
Yeah.
It's not about the weight. It's about being healthy, mentally, spiritually, like physically. It's all of it. It's
Yeah.
healthy. It's
Yeah.
not
I
about the
love it.
weight.
I like that.
I think I think it's
Sabrina's gonna cut so much rice up.
I think
Girl,
it's
I was
just
ready.
a lot because
Yeah.
we're seeing more and more people of all ages, but especially baby boomers and
Mhm.
Gen Zers, that all many focus on is the scale.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. And it's, well, and also the comparison of, well, everyone else is losing so fast. Well, what about me? And I say it all the time. It's trauma, trauma,
Yeah.
trauma. And
So much
all
trauma.
of us have something. All of
So
us have
much
something.
trauma.
Yep.
And I think a lot, and we've said, I've said this before, I believe a lot of it's cultural.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about that because African American families,
Mhm.
we wouldn't dare send our children to Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
We wouldn't. What?
Interesting.
Look,
Yeah.
heck
That's interesting.
no. Are
Yeah,
you
that's
Interesting.
serious?
Yeah.
Because we didn't have the image of wanting to be skinny.
Yes.
Mm,
Skinny didn't equal beauty for us, and it still
Interesting.
doesn't.
that's
It still
Interesting.
doesn't.
yeah.
That's so interesting.
So when we hear the scale and I'm I need to be skinny, and then you start hearing about the family dynamics,
Mhm.
because we know it usually goes deeper. And it doesn't just have to be cultural, but that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
It's a cultural line
Yeah.
because many people, especially, I mean, in African American communities, rather than taking you to a diet meeting,
Mhm.
Big Mama would wrap her arms around you and say,
Mhm.
well, there's just more of you to love.
Aw.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So,
It's very
so
interesting. It's
Yeah,
very
it really is.
yeah,
Yeah.
so many of the stories that many of us in the community who are in the Black and brown space
Mhm.
are hearing, these traumas are somewhat new to us. Now, it doesn't mean that there's no trauma,
No, of course
but
not.
many times the focus, and I'm not making a general statement, is
I know.
not the scale.
Yeah.
And I was reading an article the other day, and it's like, can you lose too much weight?
Mm.
Can you lose too much? And I said, wow. And I was reading it and I said, you can. I don't know. But then you can't tell people
What equals too much?
like size to
It's
be,
relative, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very relative.
Yeah.
It's-
But I know for me, one thing that was an eye opener is being in maintenance. You have to be so careful with your BMI, even though we know BMI is not the
It's
do all
bullshit.
be all, right?
BMI is bullshit.
Yeah.
The health system
But
uses, yeah.
right. But that's what we use. And there are some medical practices that will not take you on if
Yes.
you have below a certain number.
Or
I
above,
always,
honestly.
and
Yeah.
and I always kind of tell people that I'm like, hey, you might want to reevaluate.
Yeah.
You might not want a BMI of 18 or 20,
Yeah.
because if that's the case, you run the risk of not getting treatment.
Maintenance treatment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm running into.
Is that what you're running into, Kimberly? Because you're small.
Because
You're probably the
Yeah.
size you technically are framed to be, right?
Correct.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like my children have never ever seen me this small. I mean,
Yeah.
that I was little. I,
Yeah.
they weren't born yet,
Yeah.
But yeah, my children have never seen me at this size, and it's mind blowing to them. They're like they started getting worried. They started talking about me. I was on the thread with their dad. What's mom eating today? Have you
Mhm.
seen mom eat? And they were like I was on the other side of that. I mean, when I would go to the doctor, I felt like I had to keep my shoes on, put weights in my pockets, because I was afraid he'd be like, and my that wonderful doctor did say to me, okay, Kim, you're where you need to be. I don't want to see you get any smaller than that.
Yeah.
But I still I still didn't really get it because I'm not even close to being unhealthy weight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I would have to be like 99 pounds, which,
Right.
and I don't understand why, if they know I have the disease of obesity
Right.
and they know what I always bounce back to,
Yes.
then why would they not want me to stay on this medication and just maintain, you know?
I'll tell you the answer. Do you want to know? Okay.
Yeah.
So I've learned it recently because I've been able to consult for a telehealth, right? And be able to kind of learn what it is. It's that some of them, they literally still think this is new, and they are terrified to have you on maintenance when there is not enough like data or studies on maintenance, and they're afraid to lose their license.
Right. Yeah.
That's what that's what it is. And that's bizarre because if you're an obesity specialist, that is what the data shows, is that you need to continue to maintain this, right? So, but that's what it is. And that's why certain practices will say like nothing below a 22 or a 20 or an
Yeah.
18 or anything like this, like what JT is saying, which is ridiculous. And also, I don't think they necessarily take into account anything. For example, what about culturally? You know, and I'm curious with Sabrina for you. So Sabrina's Indian. So
Mhm.
Sabrina, what is like that like for your culture in terms of like what a woman's body should look like?
Tiny, itty bitty,
Tiny?
tiny little.
Really?
Yeah, so I am on the other side of that.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Mhm.
and in my culture, like JT, the way JT says, like Big Mama will put her arms around you and just say there's more of you to love. And in my culture, it's we don't really speak about it here, like in America, like where you just openly like say something.
Yeah.
Like in our culture, you talk about somebody's weight the way like you would like the weather. Like my cousin came up to me on the day of my wedding and said, "Why did you get so fat?" On the day of my wedding, you know,
Oh
like
my
it's
gosh.
it's okay to talk about it. And being overweight is, I don't know, I can't speak for all Indian people,
Yeah.
but the circles that I run in, it's not
Sure.
something that is favorably. It's
Mhm.
just, it's not something like something's wrong. Like you work on it, fix it.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
So
Is
yeah.
it a
Interesting.
thing? Like, is it, why do you think that comes from? Like, I'm thinking
Yeah.
about my friends here in my neighborhood that are Indian, and they're all very small.
Mhm.
Very,
Interesting.
Yeah,
um,
it's tiny. Like, I mean, and it's not the norm. I mean, there's not really a lot of, I mean, I'm trying to think of like all the cousins and all the people. There's, I don't know, just a handful of us that are not the itty bitty tiny typical Indian
Interesting.
frame, you know. But
Interesting.
it's been a struggle, you know, and
Yeah, for sure.
it's, you know, because I mean, I'm spicy, so when someone says something to me, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
just
you're
like,
gonna
"Oh,
give
I
it
was
back
just
to
trying to catch
them.
up to you, babe." You
Yeah.
know? Like,
Oh
"Oh, I
God,
was
Oh,
trying
you're
to
gonna give
to
it
borrow one
back.
of your outfits."
you're like, hold my earrings. Like I'm
Right,
Yes.
like, you know me, I
Yes.
mean, vinegar, all vinegar.
all vinegar.
You know?
It's just, there's one of my coworkers who um some have said, and her husband had even said that she had gone to the extreme.
Mm,
And her doctor even said something, and now she just wants maintenance. And my heart goes out to her because there's so much discombobulated up here.
Yeah.
And
so much is.
the fact that her husband said, "Okay, I think you may need to stop."
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa. And when she told me, it almost felt like it was an intervention.
Yeah.
And now she's having issues with trying to get a maintenance program.
Mm,
And I, never said anything because you don't want to overstep your bounds,
yeah.
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 and you want to be respectful. But in the back of my head,
Yeah.
I was like, I think this might be an issue
Yeah.
because even my PCP was like, when I got to 160, she was like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think
And
that
it's like, why was that her choice? Because I mean,
Right.
I've seen you, you are very slender. But if you wanted to lose an extra 10 or gain an extra 10, I don't know why it's any of your damn business.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be honest, I have an amazing therapist. And the other
Mhm.
day I was like, I gotta tell you, like, I'm like 250. I don't think I'm gonna get much smaller than this. If I do, I'm gonna be like the size of me in middle school. And I think you and I are gonna have to work on my mental stuff with that. And she's like, yeah, but what if you were like the high 100s? And I'm like, why are you deciding how much I should weigh? Like, I know, and I know it's because people think you're supposed to be under 200 pounds, right? Like
Mhm.
that's a BMI. That's an American thing. You need to be under 200 pounds. Like,
Hell,
and you know,
even on our community, we say, "Oh, I made it to Wonderland."
I'm like, what about
Yeah.
Twonderland? What about
Mhm.
Twonderland? What about Thwonderland? What about all of our friends that have been 5 and 6 and 700 pounds and they're in the threes? Like, that is such a victory. Like, we should be talking about that more. Like, we have and even our community, we have an organization and it's called Wonderland, and it's something they use to try to raise money and help people afford their medication and care, which is fabulous. But I was like, you need a Twonderland and you need a Thwonderland. Like, you know, that's those are celebrations and things that we should be happy about, because some
Mhm.
people, maybe even me, may never get to be in Wonderland. And I've never even thought it possible. Like, I mean, maybe it is, I don't know. Like, but I will tell you this, and I have made this decision. I will never diet again. I will
Oh
never.
yeah,
I'll
no.
prioritize protein,
Mhm.
but if I want some lemon pepper wings, I will have some lemon pepper
Yep.
wings. And I am
Yep.
never, ever going to live like that. And if that's the difference of me being in Wonderland versus Twonderland, Twonderland is where I stay. Like, that
Yes.
decision I have made 100%. I am never going to live like that again.
I
Like,
will.
Yeah.
just all
The
this, I can't.
first year, I did not like when I walked out of that doctor's office.
Mhm.
I'm such a sugar addict, though. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm severe sugar addict.
I get it.
Um, one little I can't, one little thing just leads me right down the bad road.
Yeah.
So for the first year, I did not even eat so much as a lifesaver. Like, I
Wow.
and I didn't eat ketchup or barbecue sauce or anything. I like,
Yeah.
look and
But
see,
like straight candy. Yeah.
like no desserts, no candy, no cookies. I went through Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter, and I did not eat
Wow.
so much as a jelly bean, for one solid, 13 months actually,
Yeah.
because I decided to wait till I was 60 to actually eat my birthday cake. And and I'm still like you said about dieting. I'm
Yeah.
still so scared of sugar that I need
Totally.
to get a grip on it, because I it's okay. And I have to tell myself. We went out for ice cream the other day. There was a time when my husband would have never taken me out for ice cream,
Wow.
um, because of his mentality, like you don't
Yeah.
need it. Um,
Sure.
so the other day he was like, "Want to go get ice cream?" And then I was like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go have ice cream. And it's that I still hear myself going, I have these high standards for myself, and I'm so afraid of going.
Yeah.
But I didn't have medicine then.
Yeah.
But I didn't have medicine then.
Exactly.
Now I do. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
you guys were talking about earlier, it reminded me, like, even in a small body, I still find myself joking about, like, when we're talking about weight or whatever, or we're eating
Mhm.
something, I still find myself like, how can I explain this? Like I'm in there, I'm in with them, like I still feel like I'm the heavy person in the room. And and you know how you joke about it, things like that.
Yeah.
But I think now that's, I think, what do people think about, and people that don't know I lost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll tell people I've lost 100 pounds. They're like, what? And then
Yeah.
I my picture and they're like, no, 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 that's not you. And and so, you know, I look at other people,
Yeah.
they look at me and they think, well, you've always been this way. So, and I still, I still joke about, oh yeah, gotta watch that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I still feel like that person inside,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know?
Totally.
It's gonna take
You
a
live
while.
your life, and I'm not sure it'll ever change, to be honest. I don't know the answer. Especially when you've lived the majority of your life in a bigger body. There's a level of acceptance that has to come to survive,
Yeah. I think that, and I know before I even started Mounjaro, and we all have something, and I have a new appreciation for therapy. I really do.
Me too.
Because sometimes you just got to talk it out. And when you start talking, you start realizing how much is there and maybe how much needs to be unraveled. And I, hope that members of our community can get the emotional and the mental support, because Sean T, trainer extraordinaire, he just recently did an interview, and someone asked him, what do you think about all these people on Ozempic and all this? They always say Ozempic, which I think is kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
And I loved his answer. He said, it's about health. He said, no one talks about people getting Botox.
Yeah.
No one talks about that, and he said, if it's going to make you healthier, I'm all for it.
Oh, that's great.
And and he is absolutely fabulous. And I just gained a whole new respect for him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Good for him saying that.
Yeah.
Have you noticed the news now has totally turned it completely around? Like, I watched Good Morning America, and they have these segments about almost there's something about Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy. And now it's like, oh, what, we said bad things about? No, we didn't. And
man, they flipped just like that when our favorite diet culture
really
company.
Quick.
Oh, it was just the fastest thing I've ever seen.
Right after they had, don't you know, out comes a Ozempic commercial, out comes Mounjaro commercial, and I'm like, oh, okay, now, now it's because corporate is paying you money, Now it's everything. It's all positive about it.
And Weight Watchers, as soon as they got in the conversation, everything changed.
Yeah,
they're a PR machine for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, here again, I worked for them, and they were good to me, and they trained me well, and that's why I've told you before. Like, these people that did this stuff, they were.
Thank you, Holly.
They just weren't. They weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. I feel bad. People walked out of there feeling that way. It makes me.
I know that you do. We've talked about that so many times. I know you're like, that wasn't like that for you, but other people did. And I think it's really good that you're like, I hope I never did that to anybody, and I think that that's important. But I do think the whole idea of hurt people. And you may not necessarily even know that's what you were doing. Just like we've talked about, like how sometimes we pass this to our kids, and, I think that's sort of just how, I don't know. From you, I feel like a tremendous amount of, I hope that I never did that, but if I did, I'm sorry, and I appreciate that.
Well, I'm still friends with a lot of people that were in my group.
Yeah.
And
not every group was bad, right? You know what I mean? And but I think it's more of like the general practices that concerned me. And I do think there were some groups that were not trained well because,
rogue.
You go rogue.
But I asked a couple of them, like, did you ever get that feeling even from other members?
Yeah.
Saturday when I went just to listen, I just really wanted to listen.
Yeah.
And when I went, I listened for that, and all I really got out of it, to be quite honest, was my own feelings of, oh, why did I do that? But also just the camaraderie that they had with one another. That, like, well, what happened this week? And just it's their bar, and that's how my group was. It was kind of that way. There were people that came in and never in a year did not lose, but they came every week because they wanted to be
community.
There wasn't this kind of thing,
bad
in a lot of ways. But when communities can come together like this, that's an amazing thing that came out of it.
Yes.
then a lot of people, especially in my group, they just wanted to be in a community that understood, you know, because maybe they came from a thin family and they just have no one to talk to about it, or no one to be real with it, you know, like to say, like I used to say, at least the one person said to me, well, what are you going to do? I said, I guess I'll stop reading.
Yeah.
You
Because you
know,
like to snack and read. Yeah.
yeah. Well, what are you going to do about eating and reading? Well, I guess I'll stop reading because I'm not going to stop eating.
Yeah.
And laugh at yourself. Or someone said one time, I thought that was so funny. When they started when this particular company started coming out with a system, one of the things they said, the woman said, well, what are you saying? I could eat 7 eggs. And the woman was like, yeah, but why would you want to? And she was like, why am I here? And they just cracked everything up. Like,
Yeah.
they're real with one another, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the good thing about having something like this.
Yeah.
It takes the stigma out of it. It takes, you know, and
It does.
you don't judge me because I'm little. You know where I've come from.
Yeah.
And I've learned not to look at other people like, why can't you just do something about it? You know? I don't look at people that way anymore, you know?
You know, I think you make a good point, and then I promise I'm going to let Bear come because he wants to say something, but I just wanted to say like something I'm realizing. So when you start something like this podcast, and you're like, we're going to talk about GLP-1s, right? We're going to educate, we're going to talk about obesity, we're going to advocate, we're going to get loud, we're going to change things, make sure people feel not alone, make sure they know it's not their fault. But what we learned throughout this process is it is all about health, right? And so it's not just about GLP-1s. It's about treating obesity in many different ways, in whatever way is possibly available to you, right? So like we're going to have people on the show, you know, that have been on you know, on different diets and or that are maybe big keto people, or maybe they're big exercise people or whatever, but they still struggle with the disease and maybe that's the way that they cope. So I think people understanding that there may be a different way for them, especially if they can't access a GLP-1, you know, is important. And we're even going to talk about surgery. We do talk about surgery on the show. We're going to have people that have had surgery and do take a GLP-1, people that have surgery and have not taken a GLP-1. So we've just sort of gotten to a place where I think the different is, and this is like my honest opinion, you know, I love you. I think Weight Watchers community could have been very culty because there was only one way, right? It was us versus them. And it was, this is the diet and this is the way you do it. And if you can't do it, you know what I mean? And I think that was the sort of general narrative of pretty much all diets, but especially with that. So it's easy for a community to become toxic, I think, if it's too narrow. So I want the community that we're building here on the plus sides to be more open-minded and realize that treatment and love and care and community is the way, right? And people deserve that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the way I've gone, you know? And so I think I'm trying to like take all that to heart, you know? And make sure that we're covering more than just that topic and more than just that treatment.
I'll tell you something about that. About my meeting, and I talked to the coach. In fact, she took over for me. When I walked away from it, my mom was sick, and there's so many other reasons, and it just became like some of the leaders were, you know, I don't need this drama. And that's the bad experience I had was sometimes. Other coaches were like, it's my territory, you know? And so, but one of the things that I learned is through the GLP part of it, element of it, it's so separated from the actual workshops that they don't talk about it in the workshops. And I asked them, I said, well, is it okay I'm going to tell people who I am and what I'm doing. And I'm going to tell them that I was on a GLP. Are you comfortable with that? And she was like, absolutely. And I said, but do you all talk about it? And she's like, there's 2 people in the group that are on a GLP, but nobody knows. They keep it completely quiet.
Yeah.
Because they're doing both. They're doing the GLP program, which is different than the WW program.
Yeah.
Completely. It's completely different. And so I just thought that was interesting, you know, that they still go to the workshops, but they don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
They're on the GLP. I'm loud.
Interesting.
I'm like, you know, I want a sweatshirt. I want, you know, I'm proud. I'm proud of the fact that I was one of the very people, and that my doctor, and that that story for him, you know, they weren't all. And in here again, I went off of it for 3 months, and I was like scared to death I
Yeah.
was Christmas season, and I felt myself,
I get that.
that voice, that noise,
Mm-hmm.
come back so loud. I always say it's like going from a rave to an elevator,
Yeah.
all that,
Definitely.
step into an elevator and the door shuts and you go, oh,
Uh-huh.
library,
That's a good way.
church.
Yeah.
That's the difference, and I know that. And I'm proud of the fact that it's not new. Like you said, Kim, it's not new, but it just became so, like, I don't know, like throwing,
Yeah.
and it just went wild,
Yeah.
like from negative things to now positive things.
Yeah.
We're just even on the edge. We're just on the very cusp of what's coming,
Yeah, for sure. So true. Awesome. Well, I know we've talked quite a bit tonight, but I want to make sure that Janine has time to do her tea time. Do you still have
I
time, or you got to go?
I gotta. Well, I'm sorry. I thought we were going to be done at 8:30.
Oh no.
And I will just say very quickly when we talked about, and this was part of the tea. I don't have time to give the rest of it.
Okay.
But talking about the body positivity,
Mhm.
their body positivity influencers and models that are being approached like incessantly
Yeah.
by telehealth companies, by health and wellness companies that want them to try
Wow.
semaglutide, tirzepatide, and they're turning it down. And they're like, no, I don't want it. So now it's the whole body positivity movement is
Yeah.
in question because these medications are now reaching a fever pitch.
Mhm.
And the health aspect of it, of just not merely the scale,
Yeah.
but it's
Right.
the overall comprehensive health
Yeah.
has come into question. So it's just that now many body positivity influencers are just very upset, and they feel, it was like quoted as, she felt violated and disrespected because people just think that, oh, these meds are out here, that I should automatically take one. And she said,
Yeah.
and that's not how it should be. So it was a very interesting take. And now they're talking more about it. Quickly, the second thing is that Finnish Air, the official airline for Finland has started weighing passengers. They have a 3-month trial where they are weighing passengers separate from their carry-on luggage at a scale at the gate. And their spokesperson said that only the gate agent will see the person's weight, and they're doing this for balance metrics and safety. Pretty much what they're doing is what I had talked about last summer, is that many foreign airlines are going to start weighing you. It's going to eventually make its way to the States. United Airlines has already started something like this.
And this is about fuel, right? This is really about fuel, right?
It is fuel, because that, other than labor, is the number one cost of airlines, is fuel and labor.
Yeah.
And if they can lessen the amount of fuel that they have to put in the planes, then that's another cost savings. So probably what they're going to do,
This country will.
and probably what they're going to do, and you can mark my word, mark the time and the date that I said this.
Got it, marked. So
that they will offer incentives if you, in the US, if you weigh yourself and you come in at a certain level. I'm telling you, they
because
are
you're
working
saving
on
them money, right? Like, because
Yep.
it's less fuel. That's going to be
Yep.
the way that they think, right? Like, that's going to be their incentive.
Everything is fuel and labor with
Do you
airlines.
think, just before you go, do you think that this is like a catalyst or or that the fact that we saw an article not long ago from one of the airlines that was saying that they were loving people on Ozempic because they were spending less fuel. Do you think maybe it came from that? People were like, "Ooh, what if we offered an incentive?" Do you think it's coming from that?
Um,
I gotta tell you, I'm gonna start taking fucking buses if that happens.
yeah, it's. I don't
Yeah.
think. I think that the airlines, just like any other corporate entity,
Thank you for your
sees
membership, Kevin.
um, sees the cost savings in GLPs, even though many of them don't want to pay for them yet. But they see the cost savings of it. And one thing the airline that I work for is actually very savvy because they already hedged their fuel. So that means that we already like prepaid for our fuel when it was a really low price, when other airlines did not do that. So now they're paying the price. I think that it's making its way to the United States. There is no ifs, ands, buts about it.
Wow.
And if people don't want to fly, okay, next. And I hate to say that, but
that's
that's
what'll
going
happen.
to be the mindset, because you best believe you give up your seat, there are 10 more that will take it.
Yeah.
And it's coming. And the fact that Finnish Air said, oh, for metrics, basically that was their corporate speak.
Yeah.
Not just for the fuel, but also for the number of seatbelt extensions that have to be on board. For US airlines, we have to have a certain number of seatbelt extensions per flight, depending on the aircraft model.
Yeah.
And if we don't have that, that's a violation against the FAA.
Yeah.
So when I do my pre-flight checks, I have to count and make sure that we have enough seatbelt extensions.
Yeah.
Also, that if a passenger needs a seatbelt extension, they cannot sit in the exit row. They cannot. And
I know.
yeah, and
because that's where I want to sit.
yeah,
more room.
Yeah. No, but it may be more foot room.
I can now.
But many of those seats have a metal barrier underneath of the armrest, and it's there for a reason, and it's for safety.
Yeah.
And I do remember this one passenger brought his own seatbelt extension, and he was sitting in the exit row. And I said, sir, and I just bent down and I said, sir, you cannot sit here. Plus I had FAA on board.
Yeah.
That would have been a strike against me, and I would have had to have paid a fine.
Wow.
For that, because I knew that he had a seatbelt extension and he cannot. And also it's a safety issue, because if something does happen and if there is an evacuation that needs to happen, we need people to get out.
Yeah.
I mean, quickly.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a fire on board.
Right.
Look, we are hauling tail out of there.
Yeah.
Out of there. And if there is if there's a person that carries a little extra weight, that window exit is but so big.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
It's but so big. So if there's an obese person that gets stuck in the window, that is impeding an evacuation.
Yeah, I get that.
You see what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah.
So
I understand
from, both sides.
I get the math and the science behind it, right? But telling people they're too fat to fly is kind of shitty. This. But the other ones, I don't like it. But I get it.
Not tell you not to fly.
Yeah.
But they're going to offer you an incentive
to not fly,
to weigh less.
Yeah.
Because you're costing them less.
But we know how many people out there still have to get places, but they still need a steeple extender. So
great.
Will they make them pay more, do you think? Okay, you weigh 50 pounds over, so you're gonna have to pay $50 more?
Girl.
I don't think it's gonna be like that.
Yeah.
I think that it'll be the regular price.
Yeah.
But the person that's has the weight issue
Yeah.
will not get the discount.
So they'll make it that way.
That-
So it's like,
correct.
so you'll like lose the discount for whatever you booked before you came, and they'll be like, it's regular price now, kind of thing.
Well,
Maybe.
yeah, I mean, like they could.
That
well,
sounds like such a mess.
right? And see, but they're already working on it.
Yeah.
United is already
sure.
working on it up in Chicago. They're
Sure.
already working on it. I'm telling
Crazy.
you. So
Crazy.
So if they weigh you at the gate, they could maybe give you frequent flyer miles. They could give you this. Hey, and they won't say maybe what it's for. They'll just say, hey, thank you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So they're already working on it.
Wow.
And if you can save them money, they're going to give you something.
Wow.
So on that note, I have to do
go.
an FAA training.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
so sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. And,
It's okay.
and it has to be in by 12. And I thought we were going to be done by 8:30, but I
It's
love
okay.
you all. And
Right.
have a great remainder of the show. Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
bye. We'll exit you. We'll exit you with your panel. And that was Tea Time with JT. Have a lovely night. We were so glad to have you.
That is
you.
the funny part. When we were flying this summer, we went to Europe, and
Mhm.
my one daughter was like, "Mom can't sit by the in the exit row because
Yeah.
she's frail. She won't be able to open the door."
Oh God.
Got it.
Planes are awful. I don't think people quite understand, if you haven't struggled with obesity forever, like what it's like to fly and how fucking horrible. Sorry, but it is, you know.
Yeah.
Hello, John.
Hello.
Bear. I hear that you have something to say. Go ahead.
Well, I was just popping back in. I mean, but
Oh,
since you're gonna let me talk, I mean, why would I turn that down?
I don't know. It's madness.
I just wanted to say to everybody, because JT had mentioned about therapy, and I come from a very old school upbringing out in the middle of freaking nowhere. Therapy was something that you just didn't talk about when I was growing up. However, because of issues that I have with my autism and different things and not really knowing what it was, my lovely wife down there gave me an ultimatum one day and told me that I had to figure out what was going on and why I was acting the way that I was acting. And without that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Therapy, I get that there's a stigma on it for some people, but to be completely honest with you, therapy changed my life and made me a much, much better person. Not only did it, tell me why I was acting the way that I was acting and why things were happening to me the way that they were happening to me, but it just allowed me to process everything that had ever happened to me, all the bad, some of the good, but it just helped me process it. And if you just go in there, like, I know, because I had the stigma in my head that going to see a therapist was going to be me laying on a couch
Yeah.
with my arms on my chest, and just talking about how my father treated me.
Yeah.
And,
That's
it's
part of
nothing-
it.
Well, I mean, a little bit, but
Yeah.
hey, but it's not like that though. It's like a normal conversation with somebody who you pay, and really you can trust them with everything, because by the oath, they can't say anything.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're telling them that you're going to go do something horrible, they can't say anything. You can tell them all your fantasies, all your dark thoughts, everything,
Yeah.
and they can't say anything. Not even to your partner.
Yeah.
There are things I tell our therapist that my wife doesn't know.
Nope.
There's things my wife tells her that I don't know.
We
But I'm just-
definitely do therapy in our family like it's good grooming. We don't
and it is.
as opposed to like we go to couples therapy because we're broken. We go to couples therapy because we want to stay married and want to communicate better. You know what
I
I
was
mean?
just going to say that I think every person could benefit from therapy. It doesn't matter, like, because like John was saying, like, we all have, like, the generations that we come from, right? Like, we didn't talk about our feelings. You just you dealt with it and you move on.
You sucked
right?
it up,
Like,
right? That was the thing. Suck it up.
suck it up. That's what we were taught, right? Like, being strong and just shoving it all down. And so all of us, late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, we're walking around with a lot of unresolved trauma.
Totally.
I mean, heavy stuff,
Yeah.
like heavy
So
stuff.
true.
So all of us, I think every single one of us should
Yeah.
seek therapy.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the one
beyond a
thing I'll
doubt.
find too is that like many people, just like many people cannot afford that this kind of medication and this kind, many else people also can afford mental health, right?
Right.
And so like what we're gonna do on the podcast is like we're gonna work with Dr. Rachel and
Mhm.
she's gonna come on and we're gonna have some episodes so people can kind of benefit from some main things that have to do with the things that we deal with, you know? So I'm hoping that because she wants to offer that, right? Like here are some tools for people who may not be able to get to therapy for whatever reason. Mental health, it's a huge crisis in our country with mental
Well,
health.
and it
Yeah.
as my generation,
Mhm.
my oldest child is 40, about to turn 40, and a couple of my children do go to therapy, and my one daughter's like, "Mom, you need to go to therapy." I'm like, "But why?" Like
Mhm.
the whole mind
Yes.
not being able to see myself as I really am,
Yeah.
and the
Oh,
and the,
it not just that, just the
Yeah.
fact that like you have these really in-depth conversations with somebody that really knows how to like
Validate you.
well not just it's not the validation. They
Oh,
know
it
how to
is for me.
pull they know how to pull the information out. Like
Yeah.
you give them a word like you say I'm upset and they got an emotion wheel behind them
Yeah. Like what
with
equals
all
upset?
with all these other words and like
Yeah.
it feels like it's a vocabulary lesson when it's happening, which is really annoying. But as you go through the process, like you learn so much about what's behind why I'm upset. Like before therapy, I would have panic attacks and I would have PTSD moments, and I would not be able to tell you what triggered them. I wouldn't be able to do it at all. Within, I'd say 6 months to a year of starting therapy, I was actually able to tell you why I got triggered that way. I was able
Mhm.
to actually be able to say, "Hey, this is the situation I was in, and this was kinda how it made me feel and how I got to where I ended up."
Yeah.
And that really came through, as silly as it sounds, that stinking emotion wheel,
Yeah. It
and
helps.
just being able to be like, "Oh, well, okay. Yeah, there
Mhm.
was a really loud noise that
Mhm.
while I was there, and then there was a ton of people." So
Yeah.
that made me, and but before going to therapy, like, I honestly I would
Yeah.
never have been able to tell you that.
Yeah. I mean,
And, like
honestly, like even with my mom's well into her 60s and she was always like when I told her I went to therapy, she goes, "Why? What's wrong with you?" When I was like she saw me as like beautiful and smart and a career and married and children, so I must not have problems that I need to talk about, right? Like and it wasn't until my dad got very sick and my sister got very sick that she was like, "I think I need some help." And I was like, "Me too." And she's like, "Maybe if I just go a couple times and download." I was like, "That's not how this works," you know? But I think it's really helped her understand herself better, you
Mhm.
know? And it's a good thing. So I'm hoping we'll be able to bring that to the plus sides for people and help them
That would
who
be
can't
amazing.
get it to access in other
or
places, right?
or who don't want to
Who don't want
Right.
to.
want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Yeah.
like it's
But
very
they may just need to hear someone like
yeah,
them
yeah,
getting that same type of advice, and then that moment clicks for them and it helps
Mhm.
them, right? So
Mhm.
it may be like that, you
yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
My
There's
kids
certain yeah.
say to me, "Mom, you didn't recognize," like my one couple of my girls have adult ADHD, and
Mhm.
and they're like, "But we've always had it, Mom, and you just didn't." And my one daughter's like,
Yeah.
"Mom, it wasn't your fault. Like that's
Yeah.
not right. That didn't wasn't even a part of like a we're girls, and girls aren't supposed to have ADHD." And
Yeah.
they didn't get diagnosed, and they're like, "We don't blame you. It's
No,
just
it's your
that
fault.
you didn't
Yeah.
see it, and because that's just not something that was on your radar,
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
and now and ADHD is very attached to weight issues, and
And
Mhm.
eating disorders, yes.
so and yeah, and eating disorders. So
Mhm.
and they're right. I missed it,
Yeah.
and
Y
I
you
Honestly, girls are able to mask and cope, and they often miss autism diagnosis as well. It doesn't have anything to do with you.
yeah,
and it wasn't a miss either. It like, there's an entire generation of people out there who, us Gen Xers and even some of the older millennials who are not getting diagnoses until we're in our 30s, late 30s and early 40s. It's not because our parents missed anything. It's because at that point in time,
Everybody missed it.
they
It
didn't
wasn't really a
look
thing, right?
yeah, they didn't look at
Yeah.
it that way.
It wasn't
Like,
a thing.
Yeah.
back in the 80s, you were either normal or you were full blown in a wheelchair,
Yeah.
noticeable
Or
speech
didn't
impediment.
speak. Yeah.
Yeah, like the
Only
you were either
extremes.
yeah,
Not
it
the
was
spectrum.
extreme.
Yeah.
Right.
There was no gray area. When a kid didn't pay attention in, the 80s in school, somebody hit their hand
Yeah.
with a ruler, a book,
Yeah.
a rolled up piece of paper and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
look at the board." Like,
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
as
It's
a
just a
kid
different
growing
thing.
up in that era, you just learned coping skills to get through what was going on. It
White
wasn't
knuckling
anybody's
skills.
it wasn't anybody's fault.
Yeah.
It was the generation. Don't
And I think that's the difference for
take
me
that
with
on,
like
Kimberly. Don't
going
take that
back to
on.
going back to our topic, right? Is that I think that's the difference. If we look back at like sort of the system with doctors and not recognizing about the spectrum, of, and I don't mean insulin resistance, but like the spectrum of, autism or neurodivergence or ADHD, like whatever that may be, right? That understand that it's not just black or white, right or wrong. Like there's all these different nuances in the middle. That's because we did learn more with science and research and studies, right? And so they did learn more and so they did do better, right? Problem is diet culture only did better when there was no other option, right?
Mhm.
Like it went as far as they could go and they doubled down as long as they could. And some of them are still doubling down Nutrisystem, right? And that this is the way and it's the only way. And you need to eat food from a box and starve yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like there are just some people that are still going to be like holding on to that till all the way down the drain, right? And that's okay because that's where they belong. But the other ones, like they're embracing it because they don't have a choice and because it's smart, right? Impossible.
That is
I
awesome.
love
That's
that.
data. I do too.
Like I love that.
On that video, you're like, I'm coming at you.
I'm coming for you.
You need to get that put on a shirt. You
What?
need to get that
I'm
put on
coming
a
for
shirt.
you? I'm coming for you.
No, that whole drawing that her
Oh, the Kim
grandbaby
Possible?
did.
Oh, we
Yeah,
should.
yes, you
Oh,
should
I
scan that and
love
put that on
it.
a shirt.
Oh, I gotta love it. It's so
Because
cute.
that is really like that's
That's
well
good.
done too.
It
I don't know
is.
how old she is, but like
No,
that's
Kim
spot
did
on.
it. Kimberly did it.
Oh,
Yeah,
Kimberly,
that's what you're like.
spot.
Oh.
Oh, I thought it was your grandchild that did
No,
it. That's
she calls me
awesome.
Kim Possible.
My 3-year-old kept stealing my pencils while I was.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah.
But no, that's spot on.
It is good.
Yeah, that is.
Kim Possible.
Yes, put that on a t-shirt and a sweatshirt and a hoodie.
Yes.
There's your first shop.
Data. I will come at you with all the data in the land. Yeah. It does get tiring, but then when I hear people hurting, all that exhaustion just melts away and I just go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know we're getting towards the top of the hour. We need to go ahead and play our bean footage. It's been so great hanging out with you tonight, community. We love you so much. Thank you for your support.
I feel like I'm a very small potato in the whole picture of things, but but I just really appreciate you letting me come on and
of course.
That. So it's been great.
Oh, that's fun. I want to make that happen. Look at you. They picked up your thumb and they gave the thumbs up. Woo! Oh, did it work for you? Oh!
What the heck?
Oh my God, I'm having such a good time.
It's
Kimberly, we got fireworks.
I know.
Oh, that was fun. Oh, I'm in trouble now. You guys, I'm going to be doing that constantly. I'll be in like the middle of a deep conversation and go.
Y'all don't know what she's like to live with. Y'all,
listen,
please help me.
It's the little
I love it.
thing. Okay, bean footage, and then we say goodbye. And it was such a good show, and we're so happy to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Love you guys so much.
We love you. If you need to go, you can. We're just going to play the bean footage. Everybody else stay because it helps the podcast. Oh, where'd all my banners go? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Never mind. I figured it out. Okay.
Okay.
Bye, folks.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone.
If you have any trouble navigating coping skills in your life where you use food, alcohol, or other drugs, shopping, gambling, sex, or if you are obese and you're wondering what medical solutions are available to you, or if you have children that are overweight and you're wondering what to do about it, I highly recommend that you listen to my new podcast, The Easy Way Out with Dr. Joy Bracey. I've lost 165 pounds over the last 16 months, and it's been an emotional journey more than anything. Easy Way Out started as a podcast about whether or not I should have weight loss surgery to handle my chronic obesity, but it ended up in places I did not expect. My personal favorite episode is Shut Up Fatty, and it's with my daughter and my son, who are now adults, and we covered what it was like for them to grow up in a fat family and how I handled the fact that they were overweight and what I could have done better as their mom. You'll be tearing up one second and cracking up the next. You can find The Easy Way Out with Dr. Joy Bracey anywhere you listen to podcasts.